In this lesson, we will learn some of the issues that happen when importing Illustrator files to After Effects. So I'm just starting out here in Illustrator, and I'm not really going to do anything in Illustrator. I just want you to be able to see kind of what this is looking like as I'm starting out here in the original program before we import this to After Effects. And one of the things I want you to just take a look at is how I have my layers set up. So all those sub layers that Illustrator automatically creates as I'm just creating shapes, I've kind of grouped into these different layers and put them there. So you can kind of see that's its own layer, the phone is its own layer, the phone's reflection is on its own layer, and that's just going to help me to kind of figure this out a little bit better once we bring this into After Effects. So go ahead and open up After Effects, and then we're going to import that Illustrator file to our After Effects project. So come over here to your project panel, go to Import File, and then we're just going to come right over here and click that Importing Colors file. Go ahead and say Open. But before you click anything else, you want to make sure that you choose the composition here where it has the import as. Instead of footage, let's choose composition retain layer styles. And depending on how you have your preferences set up, even if I would have clicked open first, sometimes it'll pop up another window for you. So just to make sure, we'll go ahead and do it in that first window. Okay, so now we have this imported as a composition instead of just that Illustrator layer file type that you would normally see over here in your project panel. Now we see this as a composition with the little composition icon here to the left. So go ahead and double click that, and that will open this up. So already, if you were kind of looking before at what the Illustrator file looked like compared to this one we see in After Effects now, our color looks pretty different. So if I kind of drag this down here just so that you can see both windows, the color I have for my sky especially looks a lot more green here in After Effects than it did in Illustrator. So sometimes this can happen whenever, even if I hadn't imported this as a composition, if I just imported it as a straight file, this would still look like this. So this is a common problem that you're going to get really anytime that you import without paying attention to your color space. So After Effects is always going to default to an RGB color space because that's the only place really that it's ever going to be output, because it'll be on a screen. Now Illustrator, depending on how you have your preferences set up, is usually going to default to CMYK. Just when you open it up, you haven't changed anything, CMYK is what it's going to go with. So that's what we're seeing here, is this CMYK color space being converted to RGB just kind of automatically by After Effects. And it looks a little bit strange. So what I want to go ahead and do now is change my original color space that I had in my Illustrator file. So let's go ahead and minimize After Effects and just come back here to our Illustrator file. And I'm going to come up here to File, and we'll come down here to Document Color Mode. And you'll see that CMYK has been checked. So CMYK is going to be used for printing, not for viewing on a screen. So we're not really utilizing our program to the best of our abilities if we just have CMYK checked as the default. So we're going to get a lot closer of a match when we go between Illustrator and After Effects if we choose RGB. So go ahead and click RGB. And you notice that this changed ever so subtly. It just maybe got a little bit more green here, but it still looks a lot closer to our original color than what we had once we imported to After Effects. So now that I've changed this, I want to come in and resave this with my new color space, just so I'm not overwriting that original file and so that you'll be able to see the difference. So we'll come up here to File, Save As, and we'll just save this in our project files in the graphics folder. So I'm just coming over here, and importing colors is what that was called before, and I had CMYK at the end of it. So we'll just call this one RGB, and we'll hit save. Okay. And now let's open back up After Effects. And I'm going to go ahead and re-import this, but I'm going to import the other one that we saved as RGB. So we'll come back over here, right click, go to Import File, and we'll go ahead and choose the RGB version. And I'm going to go ahead and import that as a composition again. Open that up, and now when we double click this one, we see we get those colors that we originally started with. So this is looking a lot more blue. And if I go back and forth between these two layers, you can kind of see the differences that I have there. And because I imported this with the layers that I created in Illustrator, I can now move around some of these things and maybe add things to this if I want, start animating those, and I still have all that original color that I started out with. So in this lesson, we learned how important it is to make sure our color spaces match up from application to application, and that it's a really quick and simple fix to do this the right way the first time.